The water was completely still when they went in. No waves, no warning, just silence stretching deep into the darkness below. Two experienced divers slipped beneath the surface, believing this was just another routine exploration, another map to finish, another mystery to touch and return from. But caves don't announce when they decide to turn deadly, and by the time the truth revealed itself, turning back was no longer an option. As they moved deeper into the narrow underwater tunnel, the light behind them slowly disappeared. The walls closed in, the ceiling dropped lower, and every breath echoed inside their masks. Then it happened. A sudden shift, a soft rumble that didn't sound dangerous at first, but within seconds the water exploded with clouds of silt. Visibility vanished. The cave that welcomed them moments ago became a black prison. Their gauges told a terrifying story. 5 minutes of oxygen. That's all they had left. And in a place where even panic can kill you faster than the lack of air, 5 minutes might as well be nothing at all. Most people imagine caves as open spaces, something like tunnels carved neatly through rock. But underwater caves are different. They're living, breathing traps. One wrong movement can turn clear water into complete darkness. One wrong decision can erase every exit. These caves are formed over thousands of years, shaped by pressure, water, and time. They don't forgive mistakes, and they don't care how experienced you are. The divers knew this. They had trained for it. Years of preparation, countless dives, strict rules drilled into their minds. Always follow the guideline. Always monitor oxygen. Always leave enough air to return safely. That day, everything was done by the book, until the cave rewrote the rules. They had entered the system early in the morning. The plan was simple: follow the main tunnel, document a newly discovered chamber, and return before their secondary tanks were needed. The water temperature was steady, equipment checks were perfect, even their breathing was calm and controlled. Nothing felt wrong. But caves don't need big disasters. Sometimes all it takes is a gentle fin kick against the wrong surface. The floor beneath them was fragile, layered with decades of fine sediment. When it lifted, it didn't fall back down. It hung in the water, thick and blinding. Within seconds, the powerful dive lights became useless. The beam hit nothing but brown fog. They reached out instinctively, hands searching for the guideline that would lead them home. Fingers brushed rock, then emptiness. The line was gone, either buried or snapped, and in that moment, the cave stopped being an environment and became a countdown. Their breathing changed, faster, sharper. Each inhale burned through oxygen they couldn't afford to lose. They forced themselves to slow down, knowing panic would only make things worse. One diver tapped the other, using hand signals they had practiced 1,000 times. Stay calm, stay close, think. But here's the twist. Thinking becomes harder when your world shrinks to darkness and noise inside your head. They checked their gauges again. The needle hovered near empty. 5 minutes, maybe less if they didn't control their breathing perfectly. No visibility meant no sense of direction. Up and down meant nothing inside a cave. There was only rock, water, and the growing fear that the exit might already be sealed behind them. One diver remembered a slight slope they had passed earlier, a bend in the tunnel where the ceiling curved upward. It wasn't much, but it was something. They decided to move slowly, using the wall as a guide, one hand sliding across stone while the other controlled buoyancy. Every movement was deliberate, every second mattered. The cave pressed closer as they moved. The tunnel narrowed until their tanks scraped against rock. Each scrape sent vibrations through their bodies, a cruel reminder of how fragile everything was.
Their lights flickered through the silt, revealing nothing but floating particles that looked like stars in a dead sky. Their oxygen alarms began to beep, soft at first, then louder, a mechanical sound that no diver ever wants to hear. 4 minutes. Their mouths felt dry despite being surrounded by water. Their chests tightened. The instinct to rush forward screamed inside their minds, but they fought it. Rushing meant faster breathing. Faster breathing meant death. They moved inch by inch, counting breaths, focusing on the rhythm they had practiced in training rooms far away from this nightmare. What nobody expected was how quickly hope can rise and fall in a cave. For a brief moment, one diver felt a change in the water, a subtle current brushing against his glove. It was faint, almost imaginary, but currents meant connection. Connection meant an opening somewhere ahead. He signaled to his partner, pointing in the direction of the flow. It was a gamble, but there were no safe choices left, only chances. They followed it, bodies pressed low, careful not to disturb more sediment. The tunnel opened slightly, just enough to feel less trapped. Then, through the haze, a shape appeared, a line, thin, almost invisible. The guideline. Relief hit them like a wave, but it was dangerous relief. Too much emotion could steal focus. They grabbed the line, hands locking around it like it was alive. The exit was somewhere along this path. They didn't know how far. They didn't know if the cave ahead was clear. All they knew, that letting go meant losing everything. 3 minutes. Their movements became faster now, but still controlled, hand over hand, pulling themselves forward. Their lights began to dim as batteries drained. The cave seemed endless, every second stretching longer than the last. Their lungs burned. Each breath felt thinner, weaker. One diver's regulator sputtered, a brief, terrifying stutter that sent pure fear through his body. He checked it quickly. It was still working, but barely. He looked at his partner, eyes wide behind the mask. The message was clear without words. Time was running out. 2 minutes. They could feel pressure changing slightly. The tunnel angled upward, not enough to surface, but enough to remind them that the outside world still existed somewhere above. The water felt lighter, the darkness just a little less heavy. Then disaster struck again. The line went slack, not broken, but loose. It drifted in the water, no longer anchored to the rock. That meant the section ahead might have collapsed, or worse, the line had been pulled free from its secure point. Following it blindly could lead them deeper instead of out. They stopped, floating, breathing shallow, thinking fast.
This was the moment that broke many divers before them. The moment where fear whispered that it was already over. The moment where mistakes were made. 1 minute. They made a decision no one wants to make underwater. They split roles. One diver stayed holding the line, conserving air, anchoring the position. The other moved forward slowly, tracing the line to find where it reconnected. It was a risk. Separation in a cave is deadly, but staying still meant certain death. The diver moved carefully, every motion slow and controlled. His chest felt like it was on fire. The sound of his own breathing roared in his ears. Just a few feet ahead, the line dipped and vanished into a narrow crack. He followed it, squeezing through stone that pressed against his shoulders and tank. Then he felt it, solid tension. The line was anchored again, and beyond that point, the water felt different, colder, moving, alive. He pulled hard on the line, the signal they had agreed on long before this dive ever happened. The response came instantly. His partner moved. Together again. Together they pushed forward, lungs screaming, bodies heavy, vision fading. Seconds. Light appeared above them, not from their lamps, but natural light filtering through water. Weak, but real. The cave opened suddenly, releasing them into a wider chamber where the ceiling rose and the water cleared. They broke free from the tunnel just as their oxygen ran out. One diver took a breath that gave him nothing. The other's regulator went silent. They kicked upward with the last strength they had left, bodies moving on instinct alone. And then they surfaced. Air exploded into their lungs as they ripped off their masks, gasping, coughing, shaking. They clung to the rock wall, unable to speak, unable to process that they were still alive. The cave behind them returned to silence, as if nothing had happened at all. The emotional weight hit later, hours later, days later. They replayed every second in their minds, every decision, every sound. The realization that 5 minutes had decided everything, that a small mistake nearly erased their futures, their families, their names. They thought about how close they came to becoming another story told in warnings and documentaries, another pair of divers who never came back. Their families would never fully understand what happened down there, how darkness feels when it presses against your eyes, how silence screams, how time stretches and collapses all at once. But they understood one thing clearly: they almost lost everything. The dive ended their exploration careers, not because